So, very out of nowhere, I ended up rewatching the entirety of Digimon Season 3, Tamers, which personally, I haven't revisited this show since the Jetix days. So, this was a pure nostalgia trip for me. But along the way, I found the show to be better than I ever remembered. For those who don't know, Digimon Tamers is the darker sequel to the original Digimon series, Digimon Adventure. We follow Takato, Henry, and Rika, accompanied by their partner Digimon, as they fend off evil Digimon who seek to take over both the digital and the real world. Like most people, I like to have background noise on when I'm doing other things. Usually I'd put on a show I've already watched and kinda half tune into it, but something about having Tamers on in the background was really grabbing my attention. I ended up stopping what I was doing entirely to actually just sit and binge the show again. Mostly in English, but I also dipped my toes into the Japanese version a little bit because I really love the opening and ending theme songs a lot. And I must say, I was genuinely surprised at how well it aged. Digimon Tamers is the season that really solidified Digimon, at the time at least, as Pokemon's sometimes darker and more mature cousin. This version of the series handled a variety of more thought-provoking topics that, as a returning, much older, and mature viewer now, really got me thinking. It's constantly questioning the morality of taming and befriending these creatures and fighting alongside them, what it means for the Digimon to evolve and potentially pose a danger to the real world, bringing into light the positive and negative impacts of Digimon and human relations for both parties, and challenging the cast to grow as individuals, but most importantly, as a team. Hell, the series even touches on things such as depression, which, to be honest, I think this introduced me to the idea of such a thing in the first place. Throughout the series, the Tamers' bond and the dynamics of their relationship with these digital monsters is brought into question a lot and tested often against their ability to grow and mature their perspective, as well as grow as people the most, though, I feel. This idea reaches across the entire cast involved with the Digimon directly. See, in Digimon Tamers, Digimon truly are a product of man, a program created by them, and even a card game created by people that the kids play at first. To the creators of them, they're nothing more than that, and it's to the point where individuals treat them as just code, or even less. By all means, they are just a product, and very much a child's game. So, when it turns out the digital world is real, and so are Digimon, it brings into question how these beings should be treated, and the threat of what Digimon can potentially be is thoroughly assessed. Although we see some Digimon to be friendly and befriend humans from both past series and this one, we all know that these beings can be just as dangerous as any human, possibly even nuclear level threats if left unchecked. We see some people view them just as tools of battle at first, and in other positions of power, don't even seem to acknowledge the fact that although they were nothing but code before, things are different now, and they're fully flesh and bone to some extent, with emotions and needs of their own, more than just ones and zeros. They become capable of coherent thoughts and much, much more. Time and time again with the main cast, Takato, Henry, and Rika the most I noticed, especially early on, struggle with the idea of whether these Digimon should be controlled, similar to what we expect from other monster taming series, where that is in fact the norm. Initially, this is out of fear of what they could possibly become for some of the tamers, and the nature of their relations. Takato being afraid of Gilmon's want to be strong, and the fear that with that strength he'd lose his friend. Rika being afraid Renamon just wanted the user for more power in the long run, and Henry being afraid of the consequences of letting their Digimon digivolve and who could possibly be hurt in the process of these huge city-spanning fights they have sometimes. You see, in Tamers, there's this huge emphasis on all the Digimon's thirst to evolve and become much stronger. It's a natural instinct for them. They want to grow in every way, but in some cases that hunger for growth leads to them becoming more dangerous mons, with the possibility of even wreaking havoc on both the digital and material fronts. And rightfully so, the Tamers fear this at first, but we get to see them be some of the first to truly grow alongside them and trust in their partners. Fight after fight, each individual tamer learns to trust their partner Digimon and Often, their goals end up aligning. This even inevitably spreads to those who before wished to eradicate the Digimon and thought of them all as just brain-dead monsters that were capable of nothing but destruction. Upon further assessment, the relationship and the cooperation between the two becomes crucial for both beings' survival. It becomes a matter of if they can't grow together and learn to trust each other, other people's lives will be lost in the process possibly. The growth that comes through this relationship in many aspects is extremely beneficial for both parties, whether that be for emotional growth or maturing as individuals and obtaining better ideologies or even perspectives. I think the best example of the relationship evolving between the two is Takano and Gilmon though. See, at some point the hunger for the means to grow faster and get stronger consumes the both of them, causing Gilmon to digivolve into exactly what they feared before, a truly uncontrollable monster. Through the intense bond between the two though, Takano was able to bring Gilmon back to his senses. These events inevitably pushed them all to discover what it truly means to bond with their partner and grow and mature stronger together as one in unity. See, the bond between partner and Digimon is more literal here, and they feed off of each other's raw emotions at times and even feel each other's pain. Through this instinct bond based on a certain level of trust and understanding, both can become stronger together and evolve further beyond through Digivolution. And I think this is the first time Digimon really did this sort of thing, but the bond between them literally allows Tamer and Digimon to fully become one through this thing they call Biomerge Digivolutions. Biomerge evolutions to me feel like an attempt in the series to destroy the notion that Digimon and Tamer are similar in design to Pokemon and Trainer. Through Biomerge and even being quote-unquote separate, they truly operate as one in this series. It pushes them to stride further beyond initial limits and allows them to truly grow and actually mature together. It even solidifies the idea that the two are two sides of the same coin, based off of the fact that they can even do such a thing as fuse together in the first place. Through deep introspection, both gain the ability to potentially be so much more than what they actually appear. Tamers gives us the commanding side that usually comes with these things like Pokemon for something I personally find a lot more genuine than capturing and making these monsters battle for you just over and over. It's a true partnership between the two parties because both have to agree to be by each other's side willingly and be on the same page. It's not just owner and animal. The relationship that comes from this level of trust with a separate species is one that allows them both to persevere and have the means to protect both worlds and even eventually grow together and become more capable beings. That's just one thing I found interesting though. Back to that other thing I mentioned earlier. A real big boy topic. Depression. I wasn't joking when I said Digimon Tamers was actually my first introduction to these kind of feelings. You'll have to let me know if some other kid anime you watched in early 2000s to 2004 handled this sort of thing and did it exceptionally well, but Tamers was the first for me, and it was kind of staggering. See, in the series, there's this girl named Jerry, and from Jerry's first appearance, and even throughout the entire show, something seems a little off about her. I think the what and the whys only really registered as an adult for me personally though. But early on, Jerry is actually shown to constantly be talking through a hand sock puppet like thing at times, who is clearly her friend, but also seemingly a coping mechanism for something initially left unsaid. One can only assume it's for mental health reasons and it brings a sort of comfort to her, but really as a kid, you don't think too much of it, because she really just comes off as the silly little girl and is really cheerful actually, but that's just ours and the other Tamer's perception. See, upon getting her wish of finding a partner Digimon like the rest of her friends, she just as quickly ends up losing them, as not long after finding one, he's actually killed by another Digimon. Yes, like fully murdered in cold blood by another Digimon they know, who, guess what? He was tired of being weak, and he so desperately wanted to grow that he accepted a deal for power in exchange for the Tamers and their Digimon's lives. It's really messed up, honestly. This act immediately sends Jerry spiraling into a depressive episode due to the trauma of seeing such a thing happen rightfully. Upon these events happening, though, we get a closer look at Jerry's troubled past. See, this isn't Jerry's first run-in with the death of a loved one, and both these events have left her deeply traumatized, believing even that it's her destiny to be left alone. This had already stood out to me when I was younger, but now, having dealt with death and depression myself, it hits extra hard on the heartstrings. This depressive episode she has really reminded me a lot of the one Asuka Langley and even some of the other characters went through in Evangelion upon a rewatch. The final arc of Tamers, and honestly, possibly the entire series, shares a lot of DNA with Ava and a couple of other series, with how characters have to deal with their inner conflicts and the grim realities that we face in real life. I think too this is why Tamers is regarded as one of the darker seasons, as Jerry's conflict actually kickstarts and encapsulates a large chunk of the hidden portion of the show, even resulting in psychological manipulation by the big bad of the series, and borderline horror imagery being presented to display just how horrifying of a threat we're really dealing with. The writers of the show handled it very soundly though. As I mentioned before, the final arc of the show actually is triggered by a lot of what's going on with Jerry, as the main villain of the show, the D-Reaper, actually takes advantage of her situation and uses her sadness to strengthen and fuel itself, harkening back to the bond between Tamer and Digimon, slightly, but now twisted and defiled. Through the battle with the D-Reaper, Jerry, with the moral support of the Tamers, Calumon, and even the Digimon that killed our partner, Bilzamon, confronts the reality of something so final as death, as well as her perceived loneliness head on, and comes to the conclusion that destiny is not set in stone, and if she doesn't want to be alone, she doesn't have to be. Life does in fact go on, and she can find meaning in it. And this lesson echoes not just through her, but the entirety of the Digimon Tamers cast. It all kind of comes together nicely too, because this whole arc really encapsulates the idea of growth echoed throughout the entirety of the series. Jerry gets to get the closure she deserves, and gets the chance to look past her past trauma and finally grow along with her peers. And rewatching this portion of the show after years of my own growth really changed my perception on life and dealing with all these different sort of emotions and hardships we encounter as humans growing up. See, you are never truly alone, and through our connections with people, we get through almost anything together and become better people in the long run. It's just a matter of trusting and accepting those around you who truly care about you and trust in the process. The bad times aren't forever, and you're in fact in control of your life. That's just what I got out of revisiting Digimon Tamers though. There's honestly even more about the series that I feel is worth discussing, but we can leave that to the comments below. I want to hear everyone else's thoughts on this series though. Did Digimon Tamers have the same impact on you as it did to me? How do you feel about it next to the other shows like Pokemon, or even compared to its neighboring seasons of Digimon? Also, what other anime would you like to hear my thoughts on? I've been retroactively going back and watching oldies and would love to rediscover or even find new ones that I missed growing up that we all can discuss together. Let me know in the comments below. And most importantly, if you enjoyed hearing me talk about this series, let me know by leaving a like and subscribing for more content going forward. Until next time, y'all.